Welcome back to Amazingly Average, the show with advice to amazingly average authors and actors. My name is John, and I work at a restaurant, and on the back of the weekly coupons that people can clip out of magazines, on the front side of the coupon is a $2 off sign, and on the back side is a butt. Diapers for grown-ups, to be specific. This week's episode of Scream was called Village of the Damned. Again, I'm going off Wikipedia because I've never heard of this movie. Unlike the last few weeks, this week's episode seems to actually make sense with the movie that it was named after. Village of the Damned is about this British town. Suddenly, a fog or something appears. Apparently, everybody in this fog gets knocked unconscious. The fog clears, the military's like, what the heck happened? And suddenly everybody resumes consciousness. They all seem fine. A couple months later, suddenly every single woman and girl of a childbearing age is pregnant. They realize that this is all very impossibly coordinated, that all of them are pregnant at the same time. All of them give birth prematurely to these identical looking children. The children grow up to be apparently very smart and can communicate with one another telepathically, and anytime they learn something, all of the children learn at the same time. They can also read minds. The children also demonstrate no conscience or love. This man holds an assembly with all of them, and he has a bomb with him to blow up the whole building. Apparently the same situation happened in the Soviet Union, and they did the exact same thing, blowing up all these alien super children. This man thinks that communicating with these children is like trying to communicate with a brick wall, and he uses this metaphor. He thinks of nothing but a brick wall, so that way the children can't read his mind and find out that there's a bomb, and then it's left with an ambiguous ending if they all blew up or not. This episode of Scream opened up with a usual Noah dialogue on his podcast, The Morgue, and he's talking about the Murderville tradition of having a carnival. I know their town is called Lakewood, but they use Murderville so interchangeably that I don't know. Audrey wakes up, and on her ceiling are the words, 12 dead. And then on her mirror, it says, no one will forgive you. And at the same time that she's seeing these things, you hear Noah's voiceover saying that it's the 100th birthday of Lakewood. Noah urges Audrey to confess everything to Emma so that the killer no longer has leverage on Audrey. Eli and Emma have a conversation where Emma basically says that she's no longer going to withhold any information from the police, so she's going to tell them about being there while the fire happened. Gustavo, Audrey, Zoe, and Noah are all sitting in their psych class, but Karen Lang, of course, is not there because she got thrown off the stairs in the last episode. Gustavo says that it's not likely that the killer attacked Miss Lang because it wasn't his style to leave a body behind, but we of course saw that the masked killer was there for Karen's attack. And then he says to Audrey, oh, but you were there. Apparently the house that burned down was the mayor's property. We see the burned remains of Eddie Gein, and then there's the burned body of who we're led to believe is Seth Branson, and it is later confirmed in an autopsy. There's a deputy that hands Sheriff Acosta a box of stuff from Karen's office. Acosta finds all of these cassette tapes of her recording conversations with her students, and I think the order of it goes Gustavo, Kieran, Noah, and then the last 4 or 5 of them are all Emma, I think. Maybe there's one for Audrey. Emma goes to Sheriff Acosta and tells him about her presence during the fire, and then Sheriff Acosta tells her that Eli has a restraining order out against him in Atlanta after he had snuck into some girl's house. And we find out that Sheriff Acosta is definitely Team Kieran. Sheriff Acosta asks Maggie back onto the case so that way she can help him identify the 2 burned bodies. There's a scene where Zoe and Noah are sitting in this little room where this one woman is talking to them about the Lady of the Lake pageant, and this woman both looks like, sounds like, and has the same personality as Kitty from Donnie Darko, which makes perfect sense. I wonder if that was on purpose. Poise, polish, and pizzazz are all traits that the Lady of the Lake must have. Apparently, whoever wins the Lady of the Lake pageant has to do a bunch of stupid community stuff throughout the year, and Brooke is not about that. Sheriff Acosta listens to Karen's tape with Gustavo's name on it, and it's a conversation between the 2 of them where he talks about Ed Gein. Red flags. There's a brief altercation between Sheriff Acosta and Gustavo when the sheriff is ransacking his son's room. In this conversation, we get a little bit of exposition on Gustavo. Apparently there was an incident in Phoenix. He says something about a gun going off, and then Gustavo says, if you think I'm the killer, prove it. Kieran is livid when he finds out that Eli told Emma about the car accident with his stepdad. Audrey gets another Snapchat thing from the killer, and it's this video of Emma asleep, and then the masked killer is stroking her hair with a knife. Oh, who else do we know that likes to go into people's rooms while they're sleeping? Audrey asks Emma to go to the carnival with her, and she is postponing telling Emma this secret for a long time. Zoe claims that she has this fear of public speaking, especially in front of Noah for this Lady of the Lake pageant while she's backstage with Brooke. So she pulls out a flask, takes a little swig, she shares it with Brooke, and then Zoe walks away and Brooke downs this entire flask before she goes out to do her speech. Gustavo talks to Brooke saying, let's get out of here, and then Brooke says, I'm doing this pageant for me, when he thinks that she's doing it for her dad. dad. He says that it's stupid and it's probably like dangerous, he alludes to that, and she tells him just to leave, and so he leaves. Does this give Gustavo an alibi? Noah appears right before Zoe leaves with a cotton candy bouquet, and she starts kissing him, and then they go to a photo booth, and then they start making out, and then she sort of saddles him, and then he's like, no, there's no doors on this photo booth, we're not gonna do it here. Kieran punches Eli right in front of everybody, and Emma's kind of shocked because Kieran has never been angry like that before. Brooke takes to the stage to give her speech for the Lady of the Lake pageant. She is plastered. She says, I prepared a speech with my father, but instead I'm just gonna wing it. And then Daddy is not happy. She basically says, my boyfriend Jake can't be here today and I miss him so much. She gives this really weird monologue about life and death. She says that Lakewood is cursed, and then she calls to action that if we don't start acting like this place is Murderville, then nothing's gonna happen and people are gonna keep dying. Finally, a character in horror genre that wants to make them not ignorant. She also said that we have to stop acting like Jake deserved it. Surprisingly afterwards, the mayor doesn't berate Brooke, but he actually consoles her. Emma gets a Snapchat of Kieran being tied up. She saw this and started running towards the funhouse where he was being kidnapped. It's a trap! She goes to the funhouse. It is nighttime, and there are giant clown heads with blood coming out of their mouths. She walks into this room full of these mannequins with animal masks on them. Sheriff Dwayne was ordered to follow Emma around. He follows her into the funhouse. He loses her in this maze of mirrors, and then the killer knocks him out, but doesn't kill him. Emma doesn't find Kieran, but she finds the knocked out Dwayne. Then she sees the killer's reflection. She takes a gun. She aims it at where she thinks the killer is. She shoots him, and she doesn't hit him, shooting his reflection. The person wearing the Brandon James mask kind of stumbles out of the funhouse. Emma runs out and she's like, where's Kieran? Where's Kieran? Where's Kieran? Acosta's like, Emma, put down the gun. They take the mask off, and it is Kieran's face with the duct tape still over his mouth. And then after commercial break, I was surprised to see that he wasn't in the back of a police car. He was sitting in the back of an ambulance like he wasn't in trouble at all. Kieran says that he was really mad at Eli earlier about telling the story and why he punched him. Apparently, Eli gets everything that Kieran has, and apparently Emma's the best thing that Kieran's ever had, and he's worried that Eli would steal her from him. Kieran tells us the rest of the story about the stepfather and mother getting in a crash. Apparently, Kieran was in the car with them when it happened. He got in a fight with the stepfather. Stepfather took his eyes off of the road, looked at Kieran, and then the crash happened, and that's how they died. How was Kieran unscathed by this? Wouldn't he walk out of this with scars or something? And lastly, Zoe apparently won the Lady of the Lake pageant. Zoe and Noah are about to hook up. Noah keeps getting a bunch of phone calls from Audrey. Zoe says, you should probably answer that, and he's like, no. And I was like, this is a lot like when he was about to hook up with Riley, and then she answered her phone because it was Tyler. Zoe says, you know what? This isn't the right time or place for this. I'm gonna go. And she wasn't mad, but Noah is still a virgin. I feel for you, man. He sees these text messages from Audrey saying, I'm gonna tell Emma, I just want you to know. And apparently, Emma got the sound file of Audrey's conversation with Noah confessing about the Piper stuff. I'm guessing Zoe probably sent this file to Emma, and I think she left because she knew what was happening. And the episode ends with Emma finding out about Audrey's involvement with Piper, and Audrey's like, I can explain. We had Scream After Dark because we are halfway through the season now. It was all great fun, just like it was last time. There's a segment of next week's episode where we can see that everybody is pissed at Audrey. And then there was this little blurb saying that apparently Piper knew somebody in Lakewood. Both times that this preview was shown, I missed who the person's name was. And now it's time for the killer predictions.
Hello, amazingly average viewers. My name is Gretchen, and John asked me to give you my opinions, who I think the killer is. And I really do understand why he thinks that Zoe is the killer. Getting Brooke drunk right before that competition, giving Noah the cold shoulder. Honestly, I am very happy that Noah has not lost his virginity to Zoe. John and I don't really quite agree on the characters of Eli and Kieran. I remember John mentioning that Eli seemed very almost manipulative, and I was just like, no, I don't see that. I've always thought the best of Eli. He was good, but he was just misunderstood. That for me was really confirmed by that very honest moment with him and Emma. Look, I've got a record with the police. Like, we can't do this. So I, along with a lot of the internet, believe Kieran is the killer. And I personally think he's been hiding in plain sight the entire time. He's actually been on every single episode except for episode 4 in season 1. He's never actually been attacked, lured in, or harassed by the killer. We put him with the Lakewood Six. He's one of the Lakewood Six. While he was, I don't know, asleep during that whole getting high thing with the tequila, he could have gone onto Emma's computer and emailed her dad from her computer. Like, he's close enough to her to do that. Honestly, he's close enough to everyone, and he's quiet enough that he can hear everyone's next moves. If he is the killer, it would make sense for him to tell the police as much truth as he can. If he keeps a good rapport going on with the police, when he lies to the police about something, they would have no reason not to believe him. It seems like it could be a manipulation move. I find it weird that he keeps following Emma around. Like, seriously, give the girl some space to breathe. He just gets so pissed when she does something that he doesn't want. If he is that haunted by the fact that conflict killed his parents, wouldn't he be trying to avoid it? The big thing that is really making me think that Kieran is the killer was his behavior in the funhouse. That gif that he made, being all tied up, like that was totally pre-made. He was then dressed up in the Brandon James mask and then let loose in the funhouse. If I saw the girl that I love and I'm dressed up in that shit, I would take that off. Yo, Emma, don't shoot me. But what does he do? He keeps the mask on and then he waits for the police to dramatically tear off the mask. It just seems almost desperate.
This is getting interesting because it seems like the only people that could possibly have gotten away with this would be the 3 new kids or Kieran. While Zoe still doesn't appear to have a motive, she has a lot of opportunity to commit the crimes. Kieran kind of has motive and he does have a little bit of opportunity, so he is going up on our radar. I think that Eli is just kind of like the weird kid, but I don't think he's guilty. I'm starting to suspect Gustavo because more and more he's just starting to seem more and more like Mickey from Scream 2, who was actually a killer. But I'm gonna stick to it and say that it's probably Zoe. Well, that's all for this, and I'll see you next time. Close enough. F*** it. Fuck it all. F*** it all. Can't give a shit anymore.